Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Dana and this is Delighted to DIY. If you like thrift flips and budget home decor DIYs, why don't you consider hitting that red subscribe button. Hi guys, for today's video we are going to be making this absolutely beautiful pumpkin wreath with one of the Dollartree pumpkin wreath form. Now let's get started. Your main supplies are going to be one of these pumpkin wreath forms from Dollartree and the orange burlap jute garland that I got from Dollarama. I know Dollarama is Canadian, so for Americans, I believe Hobby Lobby would have something similar, but I got mine at Dollarama for $4. So to begin, I'm kind of showing this part in a quick way because this was a learning process for myself as well. And I began by thinking I would hot glue it to the front. Okay, that was my mistake because, of course, with burlap, the glue shows through. So for this first piece, I was putting the hot glue onto the front part of the wire wreath form and then gluing the burlap to it that way. But I wouldn't recommend continuing the whole pumpkin in this manner. So in the next scene, you'll see how I finally realized to do it in an easier way that also made it a lot cleaner. So if you were to sell these, there's nothing showing through on the front. So I did continue the whole strip with adding the glue onto the front part of the wire, but I will show you that there is a way to do it on the back and get the same similar results just in a much neater way. I'd like to thank you guys for joining me today. I hope this tutorial inspires you to make something similar or identical, either or. And I'm hoping to let you guys know that from this point on, I'm going to be a little more consistent with my videos, and I would love your input if Friday evening or Saturday evening would be better for you, because those are the two times that I am looking at to consistently post a video for you guys to watch once a week. So let me know what you think is best for yourselves in the comments down below. Thanks. Now back to the craft. So here I'm showing that I did every other section. I would roll out the burlap till it was just past the length of the wire form and cut off a strip and work with the strips that way. Then to get them to fit, I made snips or little slices into the burlap from the end about 1/2 inch down wherever it would line up with the vertical bars of the frame. And then that way the end piece, which we will deal with later, they are able to wrap around more easily. So here is now the accurate way of doing things, and well, not so much the accurate way, but the more cleaner way. So I add hot glue on to the back of the wire form and bring the burlap around that way and glue it on. Then I just would check every once in a while what it was looking like from the front, trying to keep it as even and taut as possible. And I continued that way all the way along. I left my edges till the end, and here I am just trimming them off. I trimmed them off as close as possible for the most part to where it was glued. I'd say there was maybe 1/8 or 1/4 inch left. I did that on all 4 of these pieces, and that's what it will look like. Again, still leaving the ends till the end. I haven't bothered covering them, and I will show you how to do that coming up. Next, I worked on the remaining open sections of the pumpkin. Again, I would roll out the burlap roll over top of the wire form and cut it just so it was just a little bit bigger. And then these ones are quite easy to attach. It's really just running a line of hot glue, and I did it back and forth. It works to do it all the way down one side and then all the way down the other, but really it's just lining your edges and seams from the previous one. So again, kind of as close to the wire as possible, lining that with hot glue and just pressing our strips onto the hot glue till they are adhered and attached. When that's done, this is what it will look like. Now we're coming in and working on our ends. It's a little trickier, so I make slits where the vertical bars attach to the outer part of the frame. And for the pieces of burlap that were put on top, so the last 4 pieces we just did, you have to kind of wedge and push the burlap under the wire so that you can wrap it around and glue it back over to the back side. I hope that makes sense. Again, if there's any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments below and I'll try my best to answer them. So I'm just trying to make sure that as much of the bottom of the frame and the top, because we're going to do the same process at the top as well, I just want to make sure as much of the frame is covered as possible. So here, one more time, just a little faster, I make the slits where the vertical parts meet the outer part of the wire frame, kind of push it under and under the wire, so between the end and the wire, and then bring it around to the back again to glue it. That's how I did all of the ends of the pumpkin. Next is the fun part, really. It's the decorating. So I'm using some florals from Dollartree, all available. Mostly we're all from their fall collection. Hopefully you can find them still. I know they get bought up really quick. For the maple leaves, they were kind of going to be my base, so I just laid them out, and that's how I would suggest doing anything really when you're working with florals. Lay out so you kind of have an idea of where things are going to go, maybe color-wise, space-wise, and then go in with your hot glue and attach them. This was easy because of having the burlap. There was lots of property to work with, I guess you could say, to add the glue and glue things onto, so I just kind of did them up and down. Next, I went in with the heather from the Dollar Tree, just played around with where I wanted it, and wherever it would nicely attach or touch the burlap pumpkin is where I would add glue, kind of in a couple of spots. And the leaves also helped to hold things on too. So there was kind of like a multi-purpose for the leaves, giving us more room to glue things onto. But that's how I did the heather, and I like to kind of put a base and then work with my long things that will go out to the sides, and you don't have to get super close in the middle because they will be covered with flowers. I didn't show the flowers, but they will. This is the section where we're kind of making a swag out to the left and the right, and then we'll work on the middle afterwards. So now I'm taking some of the eucalyptus. Again, I just like some of the longer, wispier pieces to be kind of my base, and then we'll fill in with some flowers. After the eucalyptus was in place, I glued in some of these, I think they call them berries at Dollar Tree. They actually were in the fall section in a little plastic bag. I think there was about 4 or 5 of them in each bag. So for here, again, I just used my hot glue, but I tucked them in behind the eucalyptus instead of on top. It's really all just personal preference where your eye thinks things look nice. I'm taking some wildflowers now. Here I'm using the hot glue mainly on the bottom because I didn't need as much security with them. They're a little lighter, and these are all after being cut off of the pick. I like to cut them down into smaller sections so that they're easier to work with, and I can put them more where I want them. And I like to kind of layer, so I wanted some further up. So here I am putting another set of the wildflowers just a little higher up along the pumpkin. Just again, all kind of bordering the bottom shape of the pumpkin and leaving the center empty. No worries, we will go in with some florals, but even actually a nice bow in the middle. If you didn't want to continue with larger flowers in the center, a nice bow would look great in the center also, or a word. You could definitely fill it in with something else. I chose the fall mums. I like them. So I'm snipping down. I take them all off of the stems first, which I didn't show, sorry, but they just pull off very easy. And then I snip down the end stem as low as possible because I want it as flat as possible to glue it on to the burlap part of the form. But I also did find out with the burlap, it's kind of nice. You could leave the stem maybe about 1/8 to 1/4 inch long and put glue around the base of the flower and then stick the stem part through your burlap. So this is kind of my first time working with the burlap, so I'm not sure if that would be extra security or not, but I did find that worked. And on occasion, I was using that method of sticking the stem a little bit through the burlap, but then I just flip it over and trim it off from the back at that point, or as close as I could get it. For the most part, when I'm making some floral arrangements, I like to either mirror my florals. So when we worked on the bottom, I liked it kind of to be identical on either side. And then when I work with the flowers in the center or the focal point of it, I like to work in odd numbers. So I don't know if this is something I've actually read somewhere or learned from somebody, or if it's just what looks nice to the eye naturally. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I like to work in odd numbers. So I think I used 5 of the red mums, but then was starting to think it was a little too much red, so I wanted to break it up a bit. So I guess I went against my rule because when I put in some of the peach mums, I did only use 2. But for the most part, I will say that I do like to work in odd numbers, and I do like to mirror my florals. Hopefully that tip was helpful to someone. I know it kind of gives you a baseline, I guess, of maybe what you're trying to do or what you're trying to achieve. Anyways, again, if there's any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Now I'm hot gluing some more pieces of the peach mums that came with these neat kind of fern greenery and smaller flowers on the same pick. I really like them and it added interest to the piece. So now I'm gluing one on the left and one on the right, again, so they mirror each other. And I was thinking about it, if you were worried at all about the security of this, I'm sure you could also add in some floral wire and poke it through the burlap and tie it onto the back that way. I've done the whole thing with just hot glue and I think it's pretty secure. But again, for extra security, I'm sure you could use floral wire and put it through the burlap. When I was happy with the placement of my florals, I then began working on the stem. For the stem, I knew that I wanted it to be larger and a little more lifelike than what the form gave us. So I started with some tinfoil. I used maybe a foot, foot and a half, and very loosely rolled it till it would fit over the stem that was already there, which was part of the frame. And then I kind of molded it around that and used hot glue to adhere it into place along the bottom. So I kept kind of wiggling it down till the foil would meet the top part of the burlap, and that's where I would add the glue. Then I also just kind of scrunched and used my hand to shape it into the shape I wanted and cut it off when I was happy with the length. If you don't want to do this step, by all means leave it out. I just thought it gave it more of a realistic appearance to it. With jute rope from Dollarama, I began on the back of the pumpkin form and added some hot glue along the base where the burlap meets the tinfoil and started adhering the rope to the stem. I used the first initial bit along the burlap to make sure that all of the edge pieces of the tinfoil were covered, and then just continued all the way up my stem using hot glue. Most times, almost every wrap, I used hot glue just to really make sure it was secure and sticking in place. But that was it for the stem. It was just a little tedious, but it was just wrapping it all the way up to the top using hot glue to hold it in place. Unfortunately, I didn't get footage of this last little bit, but I did add on a hanger onto the back of the stem just with some extra jute rope and hot glue. I hope this tutorial was helpful and gave you some inspiration to make your own. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. It really helps my channel. And if you want to keep watching, here's a couple of videos I think you might like. As always, thanks for watching, and if you want to see more of this content, like more DIYs and thrift flips, why don't you consider hitting that big red subscribe button to be notified anytime I upload a new video. Bye!